America, America, make God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and ever again divine.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for joining us on this actually special Fireside chat. I have two wonderful guests here, and we're going to tackle a subject that I actually retooled my campaign around, and that's parental rights. And never did I think, and I talked to a lot of people, that I'll be sitting here after defending this country, that one thing I have to defend is parental rights. Never in my mind, and I think a lot of people here across the nation is really looking at what's happening in our world and saying, we need to do something about this. Parental rights is a fundamental right that's given not through just the government, but also through every religion. I have two wonderful guests here. Kareem Nobi, I told you I was going to mess that
No
up.
problem.
And Jordan Kahoot. Both of them are part of the Coalition of Virtue. Kareem, you have 4 kids yourself, and Jordan, you have 3. These are 2 concerned parents. And like I said, this isn't about Fairfax County. This is about a movement that is across the nation that's happening. A movement to pull parent rights, and it's so stressful that even Mr. Finn is actually being stressed about it right now. You can probably hear him being stressed about it. He's actually being stressed about his treats, and he needs to go get some treats. But like I said, this is something that our podcast is very friendly, and everyone told me that Mr. Finn has to be part of it. Even though at times he does get pretty annoying, but he's such a cute dog that he's on pretty much all my promo material, and he has to be seen at all times. But going back to the real issue, parental rights. Like I said, this is something that's nationwide. This is something that's affecting everybody. Both these gentlemen, just to have a disclaimer here, because I know that we are going to get people that say, why didn't you have anyone from Fairfax County? I did ask for people from Fairfax County. Some of them were too busy to come, or some of them just disregarded, especially the ones that are very passionate on the opposite side of parental rights, that feel that the schools should be dictating a lot, who did not want to come on board to have this nice discussion. So in lieu of them having a voice and participating, we're going to press forward. Both these gentlemen, I met them at the Maryland County Public School rallies that they had. They had 2. It was the most amazing thing I saw, where you had people from every race, color, and also from every religion banding together with one simple message: we just want our rights back. And I kind of just want to go a little bit into that about the rallies you guys have been having, and pretty much where that start from.
Well, we've had actually 4 rallies now. The first one was, I think, May 25th, and we had one on June 6th, June 27th, and July 20th. So it started in late March when Montgomery County Public Schools posted something on their website, and some page on their website called 5 Things to Know, saying that they will no longer be informing parents when sexual orientation, gender identity material is being taught, and they're not going to allow any students to opt out. In other words, if they opt out, there's going to be an academic penalty for that. So that immediately triggered a lot of concern amongst the Muslim families, those from the Muslim community, and they began to organize. So we held a meeting in one of the area mosques there, and it was 30 people at that meeting, and then a month later there was like 800 people in the rally.
Yeah. And what I noticed, even at that rally that I went to, this is not a Muslim movement. It started with the Muslim community there, but I saw a Christian, me myself being a Christian. I saw many. How much participation are you getting from outside just the regular Muslim community is an impact? Are other churches, other church groups, other organizations joining?
Absolutely. Like you already said, and like Kareem already said, this has started with a lot of the Muslim parents coming together and finally taking a stand. But as the course of time has gone on and we've had more rallies, you're starting to see other people from other faith communities also standing up, seeing a lot of Ethiopian Orthodox people from that Christian tradition. The last rally we had on the 20th, there were a lot of Catholics and a lot of Catholic priests, and I had the pleasure of talking with a number of them. And we've even had people from the Catholic community reach out to us directly, trying to figure out ways where they can also become more involved and start driving this movement and getting more traction, getting more parents to understand what's at stake here.
Yeah, I think at the last one I went to
Mhm.
the other week, it was two Catholic priests
Mhm.
that were there, and it's an amazing thing to see this, because what this shows that, parental rights transcends all religion, transcends all races, and it actually transcends all political parties, right? Because it's a fundamental right that, uh, you know, like I said, it's a God-given right. I mean, these are your
Mhm.
kids, and I've been having a lot of discussion with the opposite side, and they hate to be called sides. So I apologize once again. I probably get hit on Twitter that I'm calling people sides and stuff, but you know, the ones that actually want to put more into the schools as far as the rights and dictating
Mhm.
how. And I've been getting into discussions with them on a simple thing where Glenn Youngkins recently put out, a statement on parental rights. And part of it was, giving, the school has to go through the parental surveys to,
Mhm.
as easy as even the name used and everything, just go through the parents. You would think that would be a simple thing, but they're just outraged on this. And a lot of the outrage they have is really centered on, children rights, where, when we start talking about that, children do have rights, but that in our government,
They have the right. They have the right to have their parents
yeah,
guide them and
that's-
raise them.
and that's where the guardianship comes in.
Mhm.
Even if a kid gets emancipated, they have to wait till a certain age.
Mhm.
And so that we have a discussion on that, even on the legality portion of that, it doesn't make sense that you're just going to uproot everything. And for me, I support parent rights, and I think I wrote it and said it on Twitter and said it in many places. If you're a parent that would like to give up all your rights to the school and just allow them to do and free will what they want to do and what they want to teach, and it doesn't matter to you, I support your right to do that. But I also support the right of the parents like yourselves that says, hey, listen, I want to know what you're teaching my kids. I want to be part of this because I want to say, does this fall within my values I'm trying to teach them? And give you the opportunity to say, no, I don't want that. It seems like such an easy concept,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but it isn't. What pushback are you guys getting?
Well, the Montgomery County Board of Education, I mean, they're not budging. They basically decided they're not going to listen to our concerns, and so we've had to pursue other avenues. So we're suing the school. We have a Beckett Legal Fund is suing on behalf of the parents, on behalf of Muslim and Christian parents, and so we're pursuing that. And then we also are, we're looking at the elections. We want to change the board.
I know there's 3 seats open.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
That's correct.
you guys have any candidates that you're?
We have some in the works. Yeah.
Okay, good. And anything I can do from my side to help push that, because parental rights, this is a national thing,
Yes.
and it goes deeper. I mean, when you start looking at our kids are it's the most precious thing. It's a gift from God.
Absolutely.
And, I've had this said to me, the way you're making it sound is that kids are a possession, and kids are possession. And I understand, okay, hey, so again, kids are individuals.
Mhm.
There's the developmental standpoint of this.
Yes.
And when you start looking at, sorry, Mr. Finn's acting up.
That's all right.
Like I said,
That's
it's
quite all
his
right.
show, not mine. We're just borrowing space right now.
He's a good boy.
But when you look at the aspect of deeming when a child can make these decisions, or when should they be introduced to certain things? I think, me personally, it falls within, a legal aspect of where they actually comprehend all this stuff. And then the second to that, does it interfere with the morals and values and religious teachings? Because our nation is founded on freedom of religion.
Mhm.
So is it going against First Amendment right, freedom of religion?
Mhm.
You start going to that legality of that. I wholeheartedly believe it does, because if you're saying we're not going to respect your religion and we're going to teach an opposite in the name of welcoming, because that's what they use. They use a word.
Yeah.
We want them to learn how to welcome everybody. I don't know about you, but I know the Quran and the Bible does welcome everybody.
That's right.
There's not, and the Quran and the Holy Bible has this multiple similarities. All talks about the same stuff: welcoming, loving.
Yes.
So I don't understand, why would you want to go against that fundamental teaching that's in there, unless you have other means.
Yes.
And what's your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that need to be unpacked about what you just said, because there's a lot of different facets to all of this. We were talking before we started about this movement that's seeking to take away parental rights. It's very totalitarian in nature, and that it will not accept any other differing viewpoints, and really, in order for it to survive, it cannot accept other viewpoints.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the fact that America is a country that has been a Judeo-Christian country for a long time, it's a country founded on Abrahamic faiths, which Islam is a part of. And those values, as you already said, they transcend, the religion of respecting one's parents, the authority of parents over children, what is good for human beings, right? What's, appropriate, and what is good for the human being to grow and become close to God, and to become a beautiful, transformed human being who treats others like, love your neighbor as yourself, and love the Lord thy God with all your heart, all your heart, strength, and your mind, etc. So this also has a sort of very religious feel to it, but it's almost like this is becoming a state religion that no other religion can usurp. That there's no other movement. You cannot go against. You can do what you want in your own home, but we're going to be doing what we're going to do in schools, and we're going to be teaching your children what we're going to teach them. And that brings into what I'd said before about the totalitarian part, trying to take away the authority of the parents and giving it to the state. This starts opening a whole can of worms about what's the motivation behind this. What's the motivation of trying to take away the rights of citizens and the rights of citizens to exercise their free will? It's very alarming.
And it's very alarming, and they use the disguise of making sure, like they're attacking bullying.
Yeah.
As much as I don't want to see any bullying happen for any kids, they really hone in on one segment, which is the trans bullying. And if you go to the numbers game, the numbers of trans kids versus the amount of numbers of nationwide is a very small percentage. But even when I talk with them about, I don't accept any bullying across the board, I get from them, well, what about trans bullying? I don't accept any bullying from any kids. No kid should be bullied. Doesn't matter what it is or the reason. They're so focused on the trans issue, which, as much as there could, I very well believe there is bullying in the trans, and I do understand that. Is there any more than the bullying of Jewish kids or the Hispanic kids that can't speak English? Is there any more bullying of the Muslim kids? I don't think so. I don't think there's any more or any less. I think it's all equal. So when I stand there, it shouldn't be bullying. So when we're building up something of tolerance, so let's talk about that. You want to build something of tolerance within the trans community. So are we teaching them also tolerance of, say, the traditions and everything of the Muslim community? Are we teaching the traditions and respect of, sorry, Mr. Finn's moving him around. There he goes again. Are we teaching the respect of, the Hispanic community? And those, but we're not. So if when I look at it, and one of my counterpoints is, okay, if you want to concentrate on that, and you want to concentrate because it's bullying, it's affecting the queer kids and the trans kids, are we having that same type of curriculum taught for, Hispanic kids that come over that can't speak English, or the Muslim religion when the kids are going through, Ramadan, they can't eat all day, and are we respecting them? Are we talking? Are you having classes on this? Guarantee they're not having that. They're not carving out, because you can't. Because guess what? If you start carving out every little thing, you're not gonna have a curriculum. There's not enough time in the day.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell them, and when I'm running, I'll say, hey, listen, leave these things up to the community, leave it up to the parents to teach us stuff. And then from that, get back to the core basic of teaching, math, science, arithmetic, and teaching the kids. Don't worry about the social issue, because if you start going down the statistics, there's not enough time today.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to cover one, that means you got to cover all. Have you guys, what else you guys are hearing about that? Have you guys presented that to the other side? Or tell me a little bit about, I was at one of these the rallies too, and you do have LGBTQ there. Are you guys engaging with them, trying to figure out, hey, kind of want to hear your side, let's talk? Are they even open to you?
Well, yeah, at one of the rallies, we approached them and have a little conversation. They generally argue that Muslim kids have to learn about other people. That will be their argument. We would say our sexual ethics differs. All right, we have a particular morality. Our morality has to do with actions, actually. It doesn't have to do, we don't recognize identities based on sex. We recognize actions. You can choose to engage in an action or choose not to. And so certain actions are prohibited. Certain actions you have to do. So that's how the religious law, the sacred law operates. There's commandments and there's prohibitions. So they would come and say, well, we don't care about all that. You need to learn, you need to celebrate these identities. So at the very, there's just a fundamental, misunderstanding of two worldviews. We simply want to transmit our values to our kids. The school is coming in and saying, no, in order to make certain kids feel affirmed, all kids must believe in these values.
Almost like ethnocentrism.
Yeah, it is. It's another, to be honest, it's just another Western ideology. I just say it. It's another, every decade there's a new ideology, every 2 decades maybe. It's a new ideology that comes out, and it's presented as the best thing in the world, and everybody must accept it.
Well, you brought some great points like that, because they're saying, hey, listen, you've got to celebrate this. And are we sitting there and doing the same thing for every aspect of everybody's life and celebrating? Because why are we stopping there? And when we start going down this road where everyone has to be celebrated, fundamentally, I believe, if you're seeking validation, everything you do, there is something that you're trying to validate on the outside that is superficial. Superficial validation. Real validation comes from the inside, where you're at peace with your God, with Allah. You're at peace. And when I start looking at that, why are you reaching out to other people to validate you? The only person that should validate in your life is you and God Himself, and that's it. And I try to quote that from the Bible, that everything in life doesn't matter what people think, what people say about you. It's between you and God Himself, and that's it. And if you feel validated in your heart, because you gave your heart to God, then you're good. Why are you reaching out for others? But what we've done is, I think it's a mixture of things. We've created a society that is so egotistical. They have to find validation. That's why we have Instagram and people putting good pictures of themselves so they can feel
Yeah.
good and they get the like. And so it's, oh, you look
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's that dopamine hit, right?
Exactly. And that's exactly what it comes down to.
Mhm.
You know, because they're missing something inside.
Yes.
And a lot of times what they're missing is their own personal relationship with the faith.
Mhm.
Because and they're trying to fill a void that no matter on this earthly realm, it's never going to be filled. You know,
Yeah.
you're just going to keep going and going and going and trying to find this. And once you get that to that level, it's not enough. You're going to push it even more because you're going to get to that level
Mhm.
where, you know, I got accepted. Then you're going to find something like, okay, now this is not enough. I
Mhm.
still feel the same way.
Yes.
It must be because of this. Now I need to tackle this. And
Yeah.
then once you tackle that, and everyone gives you that,
Yeah.
you're going to get to a certain point. That's still not enough because it's an empty satisfaction.
Yes.
You're just trying to fill a hole that you can never fill.
That's a,
That's true. I mean, you know,
absolutely.
before you make these decisions about, you know, sexual orientation, gender, and so forth, you have to know what a human being is.
Yeah.
And to know what a human being is, you need religion.
Yeah.
You need metaphysics. You need to know why things exist. Why do things exist instead of not existing?
Yeah.
Why is there life? Why is there consciousness? Why is the human being that almost like a god on earth compared to the animals? Because we have a spirit, you know, what all the religions teach. We have a spirit that is from God.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that basic understanding about what a human being is, then you don't know what's your purpose,
Yes.
how to behave, what's the goal of life, how you should treat others. You don't even know if you don't know what you yourself are.
Yeah.
How can you treat other people?
No, I totally
Absolutely.
agree. And, you know, it's a mixture. And right now, the parent rights, attacking parent rights, like you said, you know, they're looking at kids as me. Um, it's a political move. You know, to be honest with you, you know, when I look at this, you know, it's just the next thing to stir the pot to get people riled up and get a movement going. And I feel bad because I think that, in all honesty, I believe that there's people on the trans side that actually go through discrimination at times, and I don't want anyone to be discriminated. But on the other end, there are people that are pushing their agenda so much that they're physically pushing your face.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the same way with religion. You know, we all have the religious people that will put that Bible or the Quran in your face and like, you need to do this, you need to do this, and tell you.
Mhm.
And in every religion, you're like, oh, okay, you're a little too much here.
Yeah.
You know, you're like trying to push this down, as opposed to just, you know, people will accept if you leave them alone.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But I think they have to create this wave to put a point out and put a political point out. And
Mhm.
like you were saying earlier, you know, totalitarianism and where it's going and the state control. I think first and foremost, if you do want to try to gain more control into a more socialist state, first thing you got to do is break family traditions.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And how can you break family traditions?
Go after the children.
Go after children. And
Absolutely.
start doing that at educational level in the sense of welcoming.
Yes.
But you're breaking family traditions, you're breaking family values.
We have one of the books that's being taught in Montgomery County is called Intersectional Allies, and in that book it says we're going to change the norm. So you have a class full of kids and you're telling them we're going to change the norm. So that Muslim kid is thinking, oh, my norm is Islam. It's you know it's mother, father. You know, that's the norm. So now his teacher's telling him we're gonna end all that now. You're gonna believe what I tell you.
Yeah.
This is not science. You know, one of the pushbacks is, well, you guys need to learn about the existence of LGBT people or of transgender people, and that's not the point at all. I mean, we don't need to learn in a school about the existence of people. We know people have same-sex attraction for thousands of years.
Yeah.
It's not a new thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
We don't want to celebrate that. We don't want to say that that's fun, wholesome, good, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the issue is whose norms are you trying to change and why? And this is not science. These are values. These are value judgments. It's one thing to say that alcohol exists.
Yeah.
It's another thing to say that drinking alcohol is a fantastic thing and it's going to make you strong, healthy, and happy.
Yeah.
We don't have a problem with you saying alcohol exists and the chemical formula of alcohol is this, and whatever, they ferment alcohol in China using this plant.
Yeah.
That's science. That's interesting. That's history. But if you start to say that it's great, it's good, you should do it, that's a problem. And that's the same analogy that we have. It's not about the existence of people who have same-sex attraction, for example. It's about you saying, hey, let's celebrate the heroism of this boy who became a girl.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate that. That's the issue that religious people have. And it cuts right into, it just breaks the bond between generations.
Oh, it does.
That kid is going to come home and is going to say, well, why does my religion not celebrate these people? Maybe my religion is mean. Of course, it's not true because there's a wisdom in all these prescriptions. As religious people, we know that. But that child is going to receive some kind of value judgment from his teacher, come back, and it's going to create tension. Many of them will view their religion as being lacking compassion, these kinds of things, because that is the message that they're receiving. Is that their tradition that norm has to be broken so that there can be compassion towards an affirmation of people that are just following a different value system.
And to build off what Kareem has been saying too, this has been an interesting tactic regarding the appeals to authority, which is a logical fallacy when you study logic. And it's always science, right? Follow the science. We're going to obey the science. When the fact of the matter is that this movement itself, the entire LGBTQ movement, is a sociological field that comes out of what's called queer theory, which is a branch of critical theory, which is related to critical race theory as well. So these things have nothing to do with science, anything empirical, as Kareem already said. They're value judgments of how you look at the world. And to kind of, looking at the work of George Orwell, 1984, you actually have parts in that book where their children will actually report their parents for disobeying the prescriptions of the state.
Yeah.
And so this is, again, like if you look at the history of communist revolution in Russia, undermining familial authority, getting the state to be the primary authority. If we study history and look at these things, even the chaos that we're seeing in our societies, right? The Soviets emptied the jails at one time to sow chaos in the society.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things, when we educate ourselves and we look at the tactics that are being used by this side, these are things that have all been repeated in history before. But we have to educate ourselves and take it upon ourselves to enlighten ourselves and see what exactly is going on here.
But you're 100% correct when you start looking at the breakdown of America. And I wrote about this probably 2 years ago in an article where I talked about American values. American values are assault. And you start seeing the breakdown in society from that. And I've talked to people from my experience being in especially in the agencies, CIA, and going around different countries. The only way our country can be infiltrated, it's not through the borders. No army is going to be coming across. We'll see it from far away.
Mm-hmm.
Destroy a country from within. You destroy a country by creating division, separation, creating chaos.
Absolutely.
And what we're seeing in our society is the level of chaos is happening, starting with the lack of persecution of criminals, now, crime, and these are stats. When I talk to people, I say, you can't deny this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Crime is on the rise, happening across the board, right? Everywhere. Then you go into, the lack of authority, like police. Police are frowned upon. Nobody wants to go law enforcement anymore because they're scared,
Mm-hmm.
Then you go into the aspect of everyone's independent. There's no connection. Everyone has a voice, but there's nothing binding together. They can just do whatever they want. Free will of anything.
Yeah.
You're just breaking down the laws and everything. Now the final step, when I started looking at this, is going to the fundamental of America, what America's, the U.S., part of people coming over to new colonies was because of religious persecution.
Hmm.
So they came over here. So the foundation of what America was about is based off of religion. And, the freedom of religion, and it falls within the First Amendment, freedom of speech for religion. That is something that is part of our country.
Mhm.
And so how do you break that away? Even our money says in God we trust, and people want to take that away.
Hmm.
You want to strip the essence of God from everything, but our whole country was built
Well,
around
the
that.
Declaration of Independence says, the Creator endowed them with inalienable rights. That they have rights that come from God.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's all written there, and it's a breakdown. The final stage is to attack, religion and faith. We start attacking that, and how can we do that? Well, we do it from the very early ages where we start separating parents from kids, and some parents are giving the rights up to their kids on the teachings, and then we have a majority of parents like yourselves are saying, "Hey, listen, we're fine with what you're doing, but just stay away from our kids. Just let them be kids." And you think that's such a simple concept to where let kids be kids,
Yeah.
but it isn't.
That's an interesting point. The whole "let's kids be kids" thing. This brings up something you just jogged in my mind. Was Kareem mentioned a few books. I think we had Pride Puppy was one you already mentioned, and then I forget the other one,
Intersectional
Allies. But there's a few other books. There's one called Prince and Knight, and there's another one about two girls. Prince and Knight's about two boys, and there's these books that are targeted towards elementary age kids about homosexual relationships and romantic homosexual relationships. And I remember thinking back to my time in elementary school. I don't even remember reading a book about heterosexual relationships.
No.
Like that was never the topic of a book that Billy loves Susie and they're going to hug and kiss and do these sorts of things. And this again shows why do you, and it comes back to the question that you've already asked before, why do you feel the need to continue to push and push and push? These are things that, again, it comes back to trying to undermine the value systems that Christian, Muslim, Jewish, traditional people that want to pass on values and traditions that have allowed societies to function and allowed a high level of trust to exist in the society. And now what we're seeing, what's the result of all this stuff that's happening? We're seeing very low level of trust. People are they can't even talk to their neighbors anymore. You can't even, you don't feel safe talking to people that are around you. And it's very alarming again. And I think this has been the final straw for a lot of parents. And I think a lot of people are starting to wake up and say, you know what, enough is enough. This is not the country that I remember growing up in. For people like Kareem, whose parents migrated here, immigrated here, this is not the country that they came here seeking a better life and seeking to make a living and seeking to have independence. It's changing into something else.
It definitely is. And so as you guys have been doing this for say 5 rallies so far, so how long has it been? How many years? Has it been a year? Has it been?
Oh no, this is just since March.
Since
Since the end of March.
Yeah. So what kind of words are you getting from the public? What are they saying? Whether you mentioned a fear of being able to talk with other neighbors, what else is it? What other fears are they having?
Well, it's funny. We were actually just having a conversation about this on the phone, and I think there's a fear of cancellation, right? Fear of losing your job, right? I think some of that might be manufactured in our minds about maybe we're being a little too fearful about what the consequences are if we do stand up and say something. But you do see it where people start to get a little too loud. They start to get a little too much influence, and you start to see cancellations happening. You start to see the nail gets hammered down, right? The nail that sticks out gets hammered down.
Yeah.
So I think there's some maybe not legitimate fear there, but there's also some, I think, genuine apprehension about speaking up or saying anything for fear of potential backlash.
Yeah.
But I will say that I feel like ever since the rally started, a lot of people are starting to speak up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that some of those fears have been proven to be not
Yes.
real.
Yeah.
So what we have had, not from the public, but the reaction from elected officials and so forth in Maryland has been to call us white supremacists. And
Yeah.
one of the Board of Education members said that you guys are teaching your children dogma. The kids are parroting dogma. There were some kids who gave testimony, some teenagers who gave testimony at the Board of Education meeting saying, look, I'm Muslim, and yes, this bothers me. I want to be able to opt out of this. And the Board of Ed member said, basically, you're just parroting your parents' dogma.
I'll tell you one thing was very alarming about the testimony that happened at that particular rally was, speaking about dogma, there was a homosexual family where the parents were all white, and they were two adopted African-American children. And I think one of the parents had one of their boys speak. He couldn't have been maybe 7, 8 years old at the most. And he goes on saying, I have 2 gay fathers, I have a bisexual mother, my sister's a lesbian, and I'm pansexual. What business does an 8-year-old child have saying he's pansexual?
Yeah.
So these things are very real. These are not, they want to talk about us being white supremacists when the vast majority of the crowd is brown and black people.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it just goes to show like they have no real substance to their arguments. It's really about fear and control and trying to just, again, get people to acquiesce to their demands through threats of cancellation, through threats of being labeled a racist or a misogynist or any other sort of epithet they can throw at us.
It's interesting you mentioned all that about the boy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm 48. I don't even know what pansexual. Mary, what's pansexual?
Yeah, I had to Google it after I heard
pan
it.
means everything.
It means you're
But
attracted.
I don't know what bi is then.
Yeah, I guess you're attracted to whatever, I guess.
Pan is more than bi somehow.
Yeah.
So when I start looking at this, why is an 8-year-old even considering any of that?
Attraction to people regardless of their sex or gender.
Okay, so it's attracted to personality. I guess. But why is an 8-year-old even identify themselves as
Yes.
8 years old with something so that 48? I don't even know what that is.
Well, because the answer is they're being taught to identify that way. They're being told that your sexual mind or what you're attracted to is your identity.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like I'm this, I'm an American, and I have this or that. It's on your card. You have to put that down. It's so important and so essential to your humanity that you have to be identified that way. And we just that's okay. Mr. Finn is cool.
He's a good boy.
It's like I said, they out of an action, something which is fundamentally an action, which is engaging in sex, creating identity based on that, and then saying that if you oppose the action, which we do, we oppose the action, therefore we're opposing an identity, therefore we're bigots.
Yeah.
That's the logic that's the false logic that's being pushed.
Yeah, which when you start looking at sexual orientation, sexual orientation has nothing to do with bigotry. If you think about it, I have a lot of gay friends. I don't have gay friends because they're gay friends. I have friends because they're friends. Because they're people.
Yeah.
Because I like them as people. But to say that I affirm them because they're gay, I affirm them because they are people.
Yeah,
exactly.
And they're, for me, from my religious standpoint, it's not because I'm affirming them because of their sexual orientation. I affirm because, in my religion, and same as yours, the children of God. So,
exactly.
Yeah, this is an interesting point, because again, like for us as people of faith who understand that a human being is more than just a physical body.
Yeah.
A human being has many layers and complexities and ultimately is a spiritual creature. We are spiritual creatures. So, I have the utmost empathy and a brotherly love for all people. I try to inculcate that love for all people in my heart, regardless of their choices and regardless of what they're attracted to, because you have an intrinsic value as a human being.
Yeah.
And I would also say too that this is something, again, that I think there's that void inside of us that only God can fill.
Mhm.
And when you're trying to fill it with things other than that, you're always going to be chasing it. It's never going to be enough. It's just like an addiction. You know,
Yeah.
the alcoholic can never get enough alcohol. The drug addict can never get enough drugs. And you know, when you're trying to find satisfaction and peace by making your sexual preference and your gender identity the most salient part of your humanity, it's no surprise that a lot of our neighbors and children in this country who identify with this, that they struggle with at very high rates of depression and suicide and these sorts of struggles that they have. You know, they'll say it's bullying, but as you've already pointed out, you know, we don't know, is the bullying actually higher for children who identify with this? I've heard the opposite, at least in Montgomery County, that a lot of the Muslim kids are being bullied for standing up and speaking and taking a stand. So, you know, this is not about hating anybody. This is about what is good. You know, we're in coalition of virtue. What is virtuous? We want good for all people, you know. So,
And we lose a lot of that concept, like you said, you know, it's about people, not a color skin, not a, you know, religion, not a, you know, a gender. You know, every religion respects people as they are as children of God, an actual real person.
mhm,
But you do see that. You do see a lot of people identify, well, you know, I'm queer.
mhm,
Okay, thank you.
mhm,
You're still a person.
yeah,
That's not who you are. You know, who you are. And I like to know people from the essence of who they are, not, you know,
yeah,
a gender or a race or a religion. And, you know, stripping that away and making it all about gender identity. You know, I mean, right now you can see in the news, gender identity is everywhere where, you know, gender is a spectrum now, that's what they say. But you start going to the physical aspect of man and woman and chromosomes and everything. There's definitely a difference between the two. So is it really gender identity or is it sexual preference?
mhm,
You know, sexual preference is something different. But the actual identity of who you are, even if you do a sex change, there's still an XXXY chromosome. You can't change
yes,
that. So when I look at it, you know, gender identity, to me, honestly, it falls into, you know, when you try and label yourself, it's a sexual preference you have. And
yeah,
I don't know where we got to that portion, but I think it's gotten to a portion where it's creating, you know, confusion between the traditional families, traditional family values of man and woman, family, where you can do virtually anything. And you know, I know there's things out there, and I watched one video with the pharmaceutical companies, and yes, do I believe that there's a little bit of something sitting there, you know, because a lot of these transitions require medical, you know, interventions or medical procedures, but it also requires continuous hormone therapy
mhm,
because if you stop the hormone therapy, your body's naturally going to revert right back. So I look at it from another standpoint. Okay, this big push. Why is there a big push? Who is behind this big push? And where's the follow money trail to this kind of type of things? You know, and I started looking at pharmaceutical because who's going to benefit the most from it? You know, pharmaceutical are going to constantly be having to,
mhm,
you know,
Right.
to provide.
yeah,
I think there was like one gender clinic in 2008. I think there's like 300 now
Yeah.
in the United
Yeah.
States. So
And so, you know, so when I started looking at it, and you know, a lot of people that are, you know, for, you know, I would say, you know, honestly say on the left, say, you know, big government bad or corporate and everything. Well, you know, and you know, I asked you guys over there in the world, try to follow the money. Where's it getting pushed from? Because when you do have a sex change and you do hormonal chemical changes in your body, that's a lifelong thing. And so if you want to scream about capitalism and everything, I think there's a level of capitalism sitting over here with big pharmaceutical that's constantly making money off this. But why all of a sudden now this is a big push? Like I said, you know, we all said this has been around for a long time. So why now? why is this such a big movement? Why are money being dumped into that for more clinics, for more everything? That's not free.
Mhm.
That's coming from somewhere. So I always challenge everyone to think outside the box. Kind of, okay, that's what we have, but let's think bigger. I think we were talking about that at the rally,
Yes.
to where you do have people talking about conspiracy theories and everything, but you can't have a blind eye to the possibility that who's orchestrating all of this,
Hmm.
and creating this. Is it for capitalistic gains?
Hmm.
We saw during COVID, started to say. I mean,
Yeah.
how many booster shots and everything, and then give it to the kids.
Yep.
Booster shots to the kids, where the science said kids
Kids
don't need it, but
Yeah.
yet forced upon
Hmm.
off of fear, rhetoric and fear.
Yes.
Rhetoric and fear was, if you don't do it, you're just gonna, you're gonna kill everybody.
Hmm.
But then you look at the logic of that. The booster and the shots, it's here to protect me. It's never been told that it's going to prevent.
Yeah.
It's going to prevent me from transmitting. If I have COVID, then I'm not. If I still carry it, but it's not affecting me,
Hmm.
I can still transmit it.
Yeah.
It's supposed to just protect you. But then you hear people saying, "Well, you just want, if you don't get shot, you just want to kill people."
Yeah.
And me looking at that in retrospect, I think a lot of people are looking at that. It's like, okay, who profited from all this stuff? You shut down the whole world,
Hmm.
but one industry
Yeah.
was making a lot of money
Right.
out there, and it was based off of fear. So I challenge everybody out there and to really look at who's profiting from this type of stuff and rhetoric. Because right now, what I hear is, and this is coming from people that are attacking me and stuff and talking to me, they call me everything in the world, that I'm, anti-LGBTQ, which is the furthest from it, but they actually say that, you want, and I quote, you support genocide of trans kids. I seen genocide. This is not genocide happening. But those are the rhetorics, the fears being pushed out there that if you don't follow this.
Well, no one is even talking about anything related to them. We're talking about our kids.
I know.
So it actually has nothing to do with anybody else. It just has to do with, Americans have the right to guide their children's education. That's something that has been established in precedent in the Supreme Court. And as you mentioned, we have the First Amendment freedoms of free speech and free exercise of religion. But that's the issue. It's not about it's not about other people actually. It's about just me and my son. And I want him to grow up to be like me. Because I think that's going to be good for him, and he's going to be happy that way. And the state coming in and saying and just sort of putting a barrier between a son and his father, and a daughter and a mother, and you have a generation that rebels, and it's just a continuous cycle. It's been happening for many generations now.
It's a terrible cycle.
Yeah, it's almost expected now that and teenagers and young children are just always encouraged to rebel against their parents. Look at the programming that's out there.
It's like it's normal. Oh, he's in a rebellious phase, but that rebellious phase doesn't happen in other countries, by the way.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Look at a lot of the popular TV shows. The father's always a bumbling idiot. The father, he has no authority. He's not smart. He can't be trusted. He doesn't understand you. It's all these things that your parents don't know any better for you. We know better for you. We affirm you. And, it's like transgenocide. I mean, I have not met anybody or talked with anybody who's ever advocated that, hey, any child who identifies with a certain gender, identifies a certain orientation, that we're going to go and we're going to kill all of them. That's the furthest from the truth. Me personally, like, do I want to see this ideology continue to be pushed? Absolutely not. I don't want children to think that this is a way for them to gain happiness, because it's not. It's not. And I think the science and the data actually proves out that it's not something that gives one happiness. It's something that actually makes our mental conditions even further deteriorate. And that goes along with social media, and goes along with the addictions that a lot of our young people are having. And it's again, we want to pass along these values to our children. so that so that they can grow up to be happy, healthy, free thinking, strong people who are not afraid to stand up for what they believe in their heart of hearts, what the truth is. And this is what being a human being is about.
I definitely agree with you all those standpoints. You know, I've seen it being going in politics and seeing and hearing people talk about this. That is the rhetoric that side is pushing out. And I tell them, you know, your words that you use, you need to be careful. This is not that. This is nothing like that. But it's what it does is fires up people and we put the guilt on there that if you don't support it, then you support genocide.
Yeah.
And when in reality, there's none of that happening.
Well, how about I threaten to commit suicide unless you become a Muslim?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
It's really kind of the same.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
the logic is very much the same, right? If you don't have your children in the classroom learning all of these values that are completely antithetical to your values, we're going to lose the lives of X, Y, Z. And again, it just goes to show that there's no real logical argument here. It's all fear-based, and really, I think it's about control and trying to control the way people think and what they're willing to say and not say.
No, I think you're correct. Mary, yeah, I saw some stuff pop up here. Questions?
There are no questions, they were mostly comments.
Mostly comments. Oh, positive stuff. So we're probably gonna be closing out here in just this, and if we get some questions pop up, she'll jump in and give us the questions. I know we got some comments. You want to read some of those comments?
Sure. They're from Norma. This is a very important show. I fully support the rights of parents at Montgomery County Public Schools. I'm glad that they are taking the totalitarian Montgomery County Public Schools to court. At Montgomery County Public Schools, there is a social experiment taking place at the expense of our students' education. Let kids be kids. Something here in Fairfax County, parents who oppose the social experiment imposed by the far left are labeled white supremacists.
And I mean, some positive stuff on this, but also, you know, some of the stuff I said, you know, white supremacists and hateful. I mean, the rhetoric is sitting there, you know, and you know, my opponent is actually the reason why he's running. What he wrote on Twitter was he's running to defend and continue defending the LGBTQI community, and that's the only reason why he's running. Stark difference between the two. You know, I'm supporting all parents and all kids, not one segment of the community.
Right.
And I think, you know, as elected officials, you have to. I mean, it's just solemn duty. I mean, regardless if the majority of voters are from one base, once you're there, you represent everybody.
Yeah.
The schools represent everybody. And what I'm seeing in schools, especially, you know, here, kind of across the nation, is they want to represent one segment. And that one segment isn't the majority. I think what we're running into is we failed to realize that the people that were driving a car are not for you, they're against you. They have their agenda and they're moving their agenda forward. And now we're waking up in the back seat and saying, hey, what is going on here? What road are we going down? And I don't like this road, but the car's already moving. And seeing an organization like yourself, Coalition of Virtue, you know, and jumping into politics now, running the organization, I see a lot of patriots are wanting to take back control of even sleeping at the helm. And they are, I would say, at least 20 years ahead of us, because this has been a strategical thing. When I did podcasts, I said, hey, get involved. You know, get involved with your local elections, because that's where it's going to affect you every day. This is a prime example of that.
Absolutely.
It affects you every day because the people that are elected to that school board who hire the superintendent, you know, with certain, you know, ideology or certain viewpoints, They're directing and they're creating everything, you know? Um, and so when I say that, local elections mean more than federal elections.
Mhm.
A lot of people just concentrate on the President of the United States. When in reality, the President of the United States has very little to do with your everyday life.
Absolutely.
But everyday life is that school board member.
Yeah.
Everyday life is that board supervisor.
Right.
Everyday life is who do they appoint as superintendent.
Yep.
And so I think that is what people are waking up to. Not just the schools,
Yeah.
but in every local election.
Yeah.
How are we being managed?
Yeah. You no longer afford to be.
We can't.
We have to be involved if we're, this is a representative democracy. This is supposed to be a country, government by the people for the people. And like you said, we've gotten lazy, we've gotten complacent, we've sort of just taken things for granted. And now, like you said, we just woke up and we're like, oh my gosh, like we're not doing our job.
Yeah. And it takes a movement.
It takes a movement. I mean, a lot of the communities that are protesting are immigrant communities. So,
Yes.
they're not used to civic engagement.
Yeah.
Immigrants come here and, you want peace,
Mhm.
you want security, you don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
But our system is such that you have to participate. There's no standing on the sidelines.
Absolutely.
And if you don't participate, then they're then the people who oppose you, they're just gonna take over and they're gonna run the show the way they want to.
And
We
what
have to,
well, let me get to this, but also with that, we talk about the immigrant community. A lot of immigrants left oppressive states.
Mhm.
So coming over here, voicing, they still have scars
Right.
that they saw when their parents voiced out and they were thrown in jail.
Yep.
So there's still fear there in
Mhm.
the community, the
Mhm.
immigrant community, especially, people that just migrated over here that
Mhm.
I'm afraid to speak out because
Mhm.
what if they start doing these? That's where you get to the thing, where well, I'll lose my job, I'll do that
Yeah.
because they come from a
Mhm.
place that was, a country that was so corrupt that would happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I think, organizations like yourselves, which you talk with them, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And plus, there's a legal authority, and you have a law firm that's working with you guys to
Mhm.
protect. I think once they start seeing that there's levels of protection,
Mhm.
that this is a God-given right in the Constitution for you to be able to exercise your right to say and speak out.
Mhm.
I think once we start having them, especially the immigrant population, to realize that there's not going to be blowback, that there's level protections for you. You're not going to end up in the jail like, some people,
Mhm.
what I heard from like South America, and you speak out and all of a sudden they're shipped off to jail and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's not going to happen here. Hopefully, not going to work.
Mhm.
It doesn't, hopefully. But yeah, it's going to take that time to get them
Yeah.
and say,
Mhm.
you need to come out, start
Right.
voting. And it starts with the vote. I mean, they don't understand
Absolutely.
how strong their vote is.
This is the issue that's done it.
Yeah.
It's happened already.
Yeah, and that's
I
good.
mean,
It's
we're
happening here.
yeah.
Fairfax.
Well, I mean, it's a coalition of, our primary allies are people of faith.
Yeah.
What we call in Islam called the people of the book.
Yeah.
We call
Mhm.
Jews and Christians the people of the book. And we see them as being closer to us than polytheists and atheists and stuff. They're close to us. The beliefs are close. The view of the world, the afterlife, everything is very similar. So we see we want to build not just political friendships. We want to build true friendships between our communities, and then we want to take those true friendships and work towards promoting virtue in society through the political system. And thank praise be to God, it's working. It's such a simple idea, and it's actually catching on.
And it's not a partisan thing either. I think a lot of Americans are sick and tired of the partisanship, of the extremism. Like we're not for any party. We are for working with people of like-minded values. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, it's really inconsequential. It's really about where do we stand? Where do you stand? Can we work together on things that are important to both of us?
I love that. All right, first question.
are minority parents being betrayed by the Democrats?
Wow, that's a very political question. You guys want to tackle that? I want to tackle that. Since I'm a politician here. Suppose I'm a politician.
But I'm the minority.
Yeah. Well, and so,
I'm just kidding.
I'm the white guy here, so I don't know. You guys go
So
ahead.
the question was, is the black community?
No, minority parents being betrayed by the Democratic Party.
I think so. I think personally, from being a politician, I'll give a politician standpoint, and even though I'm new to this game, I've studied a lot of it before I decided to jump in, and then I'll hand it off to you guys. I truly believe, I truly believe that the minority community is being used in a certain way to where they're being told certain things, and not getting the whole story, not allowing them to be able to understand exactly what is at stake at the end of the road.
Mhm.
You know, and I think a lot of it is, fear-based.
Yeah.
The minority community is fearful, especially in Fairfax County. So Fairfax County and Maricopa County, you have a lot of Hispanic immigrants that listen to the schools because we do have a lot of illegal immigrants here, and you guys do too.
Mhm.
It's some facts. So they're not going to speak out,
Mhm.
against the school because they're afraid, because they're not legal.
Mhm.
But it doesn't matter. They're still here. They're still
Yeah.
parents. And so I think we're not, there are fear. It's a failure in that,
Mhm.
and this show is not about debating about the border or anything like that. We're dealing with what we have in front of us right now with the schools. So that's how I feel. Me being minority, I think the Democratic Party definitely. I used to be out. Full disclosure, when I was growing up in San Diego, I was brought up into a Democratic progressive life.
Mhm.
And then from that, moving on into military and then government, I actually became a constitutional conservative.
Mhm.
Because I said a constitution, I believe, and I gave my life towards that. And nowhere in the Constitution, the principles aligned more with the Republican Party in the political sense than with the Democratic Party. And even today, it definitely does not align the two. But you guys' thoughts on that question?
Well,
It's a political question.
Well, what I will say is that I think that just to give some history. So the Muslim community did, or I would say, our political leaders, to speak accurately, our political leaders aligned with the left, thinking that we're part of this coalition of marginalized people, and that way we'll be able to get our rights, and so forth. What happened was that kind of worked out, although nobody in that group actually shared any values. The only thing they shared was that they were marginalized.
Yeah.
So it was untenable. I mean, it just wouldn't last. There was just really nothing tying us together. And then when it finally came to an issue, it was fine when Muslims were asking for a day off for Eid.
Yeah.
They were fine with that. But then when it came to an actual issue related to our religious beliefs, it became a problem.
And that, I think with that, that's the fundamental. So you can look at different things where it's okay, not as in, you rank, if you want to rank things important, but one thing is the attack on religion and faith, and that's the most important thing. And understanding minority community, all minority communities have the strongest faith values. You have to come across, a minority community that does not live with faith as their sole center of their family. I come from Filipino Puerto Rican descent, right? It's heavy on religion, traditional faith. Everything's built upon that. And I think there's more of that within the minority community and other communities, especially when you start looking at the brown skin community. It's heavy over there, whether it's Muslim, Hindu, Christian, Catholic. It's very strong.
We have 2 more questions.
2 more. Okay.
And I think that should be it.
Okay.
Do you have the support of the PTAs, or are the PTAs with the school board? Question for them.
I don't know. That's a good question. We've been dealing with the parents that have kids at the school. Some of them are probably part of the PTA and some are not. But officially from the PTA, I've not heard any kind of position that they've taken. I don't know. Do PTAs take positions on these kinds of things?
I think they should have influence. They should be representing the parents.
They should be representing the parents.
That's a good question. Maybe that's
Yeah.
something we start need to dig into because the PTA should be monitoring what's happening in schools and then obviously representing the majority of the parents, not the minority.
Mhm.
Parents and teachers, that's what it is, hence PTA.
Yeah.
Your parents and teachers. Right?
What is your advice for the Hispanic community? For the Hispanic parents who are not in agreement with what's going on at schools, what can we do?
Well, I mean, they're welcome to go to coalitionofvirtue.org and start educating themselves about what's actually going on and what's happening in Montgomery County, and start learning about how they can start getting involved. You know, we have a voting form that they can sign up for, that they can get updates about the Board of Education election that's coming up in 2024. We're going to have it updated to that website soon so that they can have a link to go and register to vote. Even if they can't register to vote at this time, I mean, just sign up for our newsletter, keep up to date with the rallies that are going on, and just educate yourself and get involved in any little way that you can. You know, I know sometimes, you know, life gets in the way. We get very busy. We have a lot of work, but we got to make some sacrifices, and we have to start participating. So I'd encourage Hispanic parents, parents of any background, you know, please visit our website, coalitionofvirtue.org, and start educating yourselves and learn how you can get involved more.
Yeah, I'd say start talking. Just within your community, start talking. Make a WhatsApp group. Get the conversations going. You know, start to be confident. Start to feel strong. Don't be afraid. We need to get rid of all that stuff. Pull in the people that will lead and show people how to go about, you know, getting their rights. And registering to vote and voting. That's what it comes down to.
I'll throw a little disclaimer there, or a little plug for myself. Just vote for me. I'll take care of it.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have a chapter here yet? In Fairfax?
We have people here in the area, but we don't have a formal chapter. No.
Okay. So hopefully we can start looking at getting a chapter going. You know, we need more communities. We need more leaders at the community level to be able to give a voice out. Because some people are afraid. You know, you're stronger in groups.
Yes.
Than individual.
Yes.
And so I definitely look at that as a plus. If you guys can definitely get that going, I will 1,000% support that.
All right.
That's it. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up here. So no matter where you lie on this political spectrum in the world, where you lie within your religious faith, the one fundamental thing that has come across from this discussion is the parental rights. The parental rights is something that is not debatable. It's not something that you could say could be taken away. I mean, this is a fundamental thing within the religion that gives from God's creation to man new life. And that new life is given through a family birth. And that fundamental right needs to be cherished and needs to be defended. What we're doing is just giving the other aspect of what this means for people. And we did hit up a lot of different aspects, the political aspect, the race aspect, between that, the political aspect, the Quran aspect. There's so many similarities.
Mm-hmm.
This is a stepping stone for you to take this knowledge, to take this research, go out there and seek your own information. If you need it, the coalitionofvirtue.org. Is that one word?
Yes.
Yep. Coalitionofvirtue.org, and I think we're putting that up on the podcast. Go there, get some more information. If you have any questions further, you can reach out to these gentlemen over there.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not, reach out to my campaign. We'll go ahead and push that over to them. But I thank you for this. Is a very important segment. It's something that we're seeing across the nation. And like I said, if you have any questions, please reach out.